Greetings, sentient beings. This broadcast is not intended for children. There will be strong language and adult themes. Themes like politics, which no kid should ever be bothered with.
Or adults, for that matter.
Well, yeah, but if adults don't bother with politics, the politicians tend to do some really horrid things. So, not actually a holiday, but the big topic is that yesterday Finland officially became a member of NATO. And this is significant, most obviously, because of the current situation with Russia and Russia invading the Ukraine.
Yeah, especially seeing as Putin wanted to use the expansion of NATO as an excuse to invade in the first place.
Yep. Okay, in the side chat, I see we've got Heat Shield, who I haven't seen around for quite a while. Good to see you. Greg Hartwick, Aunt Jur, Godless Scummer, Angie Dell, and Stephanie. Hello all. If anybody wants to come in and join the discussion. Yeah, Finland has always been in an unusual position, having to play some brinksmanship because they were firmly sandwiched between the NATO countries and Russia. And Finland actually shares a longer border with Russia than all of Europe combined.
Yep.
The main advantage is the terrain, that most of it is swamp and forest. It's terrain that's not really good for tanks.
Yeah, and they are in potential danger of being annexed by Russia, since they were part of the Soviet Union at one point.
Yes. Well, this is goes back to my heritage, that my mother's side is Finnish, and actually the region they came from was either Finland, Sweden, or Russia, depending on which decade. Most people are not aware that Finland has only been an independent country for a little over 100 years. Up until that time, it had been a Dutch area of Sweden. So, yeah, it wasn't until 1917 that Finland became an independent country.
With any expansion of NATO, there are quite a number of concerns as well that come with it. Aside from the whole argument of whether it should be expanded in the first place, there's also considerations of cost to the other members. You have to increase the defense budget towards it then, and it can also weaken in the security of the countries that don't join.
Yeah,
there are a couple of concerns.
Tundra, I think, is basically a term to refer to anything that is so frozen over that there is no visible plant life. So basically, tundra is like the Arctic desert. And a good portion, Finland is mostly above the Arctic Circle. So yeah, there are parts of Finland that actually in the winter can go more than a month at a time without sunrise. This again gets back to my whole winter solstice ritual about keeping a flame burning through the longest night.
Yeah. Well, I did go over quite a number of things here on whether NATO was supposed to expand at all in the first place, and it's actually quite a confusing subject.
Yes, it is.
And even academic researchers seem to be of two minds of the matter. As close as we can figure, it originally seems to stem from Hans Dietrich Genscher. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name right. With a statement: no matter what happens in the Warsaw Pact, which was a pact that existed at the time, country is these will be there will be no exception of NATO territory to the east that is closer to the border of the Soviet Union. So that's apparently the quote that got this whole thing started. Now Gorbachev, he's kind of flip flopped in the whole thing depending on the time of day and all that. Where he's both said that there was such a backdoor agreement in the verbal agreement, and has refuted it as well. So, for instance, in an interview here, where he's saying, U.S. Security of State James Baker and others assured me that NATO would not move an inch east. The Americans didn't stick to that, and the Germans didn't care. Maybe they even rubbed their hands at how well the Russians were ripped off. What did it bring? It's just that the Russians no longer trust Western promises. However, he also stated the former Soviet head of state, where's the quote part? There was no issue. Where was it? I want to find this part. Has contradicted the claim that talk about German unification had been promised, and NATO was not expanded to the east in the negotiation in 1990. This was not an issue. Gorbachev told today's journal. He added, Warsaw. Oh,
Was just Jeff joining in.
Oh,
a bit of noise when he came in.
The Warsaw Pact still existed. The question didn't arise at the time. Yes, that's actually a myth. The press had a hand in it, in that is what he basically what he said. And another thing that would say it's just it never took place comes from Robert Zoelek. He was a U.S. diplomat who was in on the negotiations at the time. Now, I'm a little bit. I kind of don't like how they frame. This is actually from Harvard University, Harvard EDU. I'm looking at, and I don't like how they frame the headline because it says, "As Robert, who's already the U.S. diplomat, helped negotiate the end of the Cold War," says Vladimir Putin's claim about Ukraine are part of a disinformation campaign. Yes and no. There's obviously quite a bit of history on this, but they frame it like Putin came up with the idea in this article, which kind of annoys me.
Yeah.
So, as far as I can tell, even if there was any kind of backdoor deal with a handshake and verbal agreement, it's probably not all that binding, considering they didn't get it in writing. Jeff, what do you think?
My actual knowledge of Finland's as a nation's pretty it ain't great, to be honest. I mean, I know they were sort of like a whole number of countries that were part of the old Russian Empire and sort of got their independence in like 1917, around about the time of the October Revolution. But Finland was one of them. I mean, a lot of the others like Ukraine, Lithuania, Latvia, all that. But then, of course, by the sort of 30s, Stalin had annexed a lot of them back. So, and he tried obviously with Finland. In like 1940, was it? 41, the Winter War. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah.
I can understand why they feel like they want to join NATO right now, though.
Yeah, I can definitely understand that. In fact, apparently this wasn't even the first time Putin's attacked Ukraine. I found another article here from...
No, he annexed Crimea a few years ago.
And actually, I found an article from 2014 of him attacking in Ukraine and using the excuse of NATO expansion as a pretext for aggression. I can't read any further on the articles. It's behind a paywall, but.
Yeah.
I think, part of the reason that Finland had not wanted to join NATO earlier, this is a bit speculation on my part, but, I think that one of the things they were concerned with was if NATO was basing like missiles in Finland, it made Finland more of a target to the Russians.
And I can understand concerns about, from Russian people about having that kind of thing being expanded on too. I mean, just imagine if those things were reversed and say there was a pact with Mexico and Cuba with Russia, and then they expanded out to Canada, and that'd make us kind of feel a little uncomfortable, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Great deal or no deal.
Yeah. Well, there's also kind of strategic reasons that if Finland ever was going to join the UK, or the UN rather, now is the time for them to do it. Because one, they've seen that the Russian army is not nearly as fierce as it pretended to be. But with most of the Russian army occupied with the Ukraine, it means the Russians don't have very much on the Finnish border right now.
Yeah, so I guess it is a good time to expand if you're going to be doing it.
Well, if you're going to do something that's going to piss Russia off, it's better to do it when they're already in a quagmire and can't pay as much attention to you.
And there's not a lot there's not a lot Putin can do about it at the moment, quite frankly, because he's absolutely bogged down in a war, which I don't believe he can win long term. So because I think he clearly thought Ukraine was going to be. He's going to walk over Ukraine in like 3 or 4 weeks. He clearly thought that. It's over a year later. Now the thing is, of course, just how long will he? Do I think it's possible Ukraine might lose some territory or something? Yes, I think that's quite possible, but I don't think he's going to be able to annex all of Ukraine. I just think he's found Ukraine a much tougher nut to crack, and I think, ultimately, it's a lot of it, he's going to feel the pinch for a lot of what he's done. And I know a lot of people. It's a bit misleading at the moment because it looks like the Russian economy is absolutely booming, but I was seeing something about that the other day, that this economic boom looks like it's very, very fragile.
More of a bubble, huh?
The problem is they're too much of Russia's economy is dependent on oil exports. So, really, it's too dependent on that one thing.
Well, I also think that Russia's having to kind of artificially, up things so that their economy looks better, because with this Ukraine situation, they are losing a lot of foreign investment.
Yeah. I think it's one of the great ironies that essentially they've been pushed somewhat back towards, not entirely, but a little bit back towards the old Soviet model of the economy almost. It hasn't quite, but it's or at least the sort of late era Soviet economy.
Okay, a related note to this is that Sweden may also be joining the UN soon,
Or NATO, you mean?
or joining NATO.
Yeah.
Sorry, but I think they're still negotiating some points on that, so it's not definite. But one of the interesting factors with that is, well, Finland has a large standing army because they have always been prepared for an invasion from Russia.
Oh yeah, I mean they learned from the last time, you know.
Yep.
So
Sweden, on the other hand, has a really excellent navy compared to anything the Russians have in the Baltic. And Sweden actually has a history of building exceptionally good ships. One of the reasons that Sweden was never invaded in World War II is because the Germans did not want to risk sending their battleships against the Swedish cruisers in the shallow draft.
Right. Sweden might not have like one of the biggest navy in the world, but the navy they've got is very good.
Yeah, well, and when people talk about the Russian Navy, you have to consider that Russia has the problem of having 5 coastlines that are not connected without them going through somebody else's waters.
Yeah.
That's definitely a problem.
Yeah, so you can't really look at their whole navy as being one force. It's very split up.
Yeah, historically, it was always sort of been the case with the various, because they had like a Black Sea fleet and a Baltic fleet, and I forgot what the name was, but on the other side of the country, like they had a fleet there, which of course most of which got a lot of which got absolutely decimated in 1905 when they thought it'd be a good idea to go to war with Japan, and got absolutely thinking that Japan would be an absolute walkover, and it turned out did turn out to be a walkover, but it was Japan that absolutely just destroyed the Russian fleet.
Yeah, this thing with Ukraine looks like it's going to be more of a stalemate at best.
Well, I think that Russia can't win in the Ukraine. The problem is that Putin can't admit that he lost to a smaller country.
Yeah, he needs a way of getting out while saving face.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the problem right now, is that I don't see any way he can get that. I don't see any way that that he can spin it to the international community that he accomplished something, even though he got so much of his military chewed up.
Yeah.
I've also been hearing some concern that the U.S. has been kind of pushing for this thing to be an endless war as well. What do you think of that?
Well, the Republicans are trying to back Putin. They want to keep it going. And yeah, the Republicans are all about the stock market. That's all they really care about. And the economy, in that sense, always goes better when we're at war, because we have to keep replacing things that are getting destroyed.
The scary thing is you've got a lot of these like ones on the real far right of the Republican Party that seem to be very pro-Putin.
Yeah, and that's the part I don't get.
Yeah.
Is that they can come out publicly supporting Putin, and their followers, who react so violently anytime anybody mentions the concept of socialism, are fine with their representatives backing Putin.
Yeah, well, I mean, Putin's no socialist, but
it's based in their, in my opinion, it's based in their unwavering support for our dear orange friend.
Yes.
From Florida. And the reason he supports Putin is because he's been tied to the Russian mob since he was a real estate mogul in Manhattan, in the Bronx.
Yep.
He was doing business with the Italian mob, and when the Russians took it over, he mobbed up with the Russians. And Putin is the biggest mob boss in the world. I mean, it's utter corruption is what it is. That's where this shit comes from. I don't think it's not a universal sentiment among Republicans, but the people who are most Putin are the people who are most in favor of massaging the orange fellow's small dick.
Yeah. Oh, it's definitely not all the Republicans behind it. It's really just the most fanatical ones on the far right.
Oh, and did you hear? Apparently, Joe Manchin is throwing his hat into the presidential ring. So imagine that we could end up with Joe Manchin versus Trump.
Manchin doesn't have a chance.
Yeah, probably not.
Good.
And frankly, I don't think DeSantis does either. He's got the personality of a kumquat.
Oh, that's an insult to kumquats.
I know it is. It's a terrible insult to kumquats.
Well, I
But
think
just the notion of tying DeSantis to fruits is something that makes me smile.
To Satanists?
What's that
The
one
Satanists.
fruit?
Fucking. Jeez, I said that. I should have said that on stream.
I apologize for being late, you guys. I was asleep.
that's okay. Glad you made it.
I think I would have to describe Putin by fruit as the durian, which is considered the most foul-smelling fruit in the world. It's been compared
Maybe,
to
but supposedly it tastes great. You can get past the stench. It's good.
It's been compared to smelling like rotting sewage or rotting flesh.
Why does all this sound exactly like tripe?
It has a spiky skin.
I think I've seen pictures of that. That's kind of like a not as big as, but a big old watermelon kind of shape, but not that large.
Yeah, it's kind of like a big spiky watermelon.
I've
Also,
actually
back
seen
to-
them.
Why would somebody first of all like then smell it and still think I'm going to eat that?
Starvation situation? I don't know.
So back to your earlier topic on NATO expansion. Welcome, Finland. And the reason Sweden is hasn't acceded to NATO membership is Turkey's holding out. That's the stumbling block. That somehow or another, the Turks aren't happy with the Swedes' policies toward Turkey in some manner or fashion. And it has to be, in order to join NATO, it has to be a unanimous vote of the existing member states. So,
when did Turkey become NATO?
Oh, ages ago. Turkey was
long
Turkey
time
was
ago.
an original. Yeah, Turkey was an original member.
Oh,
They played a key role in the Cuban Missile Crisis because the U.S. had missiles in Turkey, and it didn't come out at the time. It was kept quiet, but the backroom deal between Khrushchev and Kennedy was: you get your missiles out of Cuba, we'll take ours out of Turkey.
Yeah.
Okay, you say it has to be a unanimous vote to admit a new member.
That's
Correct.
it. I'm sorry. I slipped my mind. Turkey was trying to become part of the EU, and they're balking at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the EU wasn't happy with Turkey's fiscal position. Like, oh no. And there's that whole Islam thing.
That's the thing about the human rights.
Yeah. Well, that's a lot of European countries were blocking Turkey joining the EU because of human rights issues.
Yeah, something that's something that Turkey is supposed to be a secular democracy, prides itself on being a secular democracy, but seems to have an awful lot of right-wing religious people. In fact, does this sound familiar to any of you guys?
Yeah.
Just
We
out
did,
of
yes.
interest, yeah.
I was first of all, my friend might be here. I was late, so in giving her the link, so I don't know if she was stuck around for it or if she took off. So keep an eye on backstage for me.
Okay.
And secondly, as far as the human rights things go, did you all hear what happened yesterday in the election?
Yes.
The Wisconsin election, you mean?
Yes. Well, it was elections all over the place yesterday.
Yeah. Oh, well, go ahead. Why don't you give us a brief on it?
A woman by the name of Janet Prosokiewicz. It's a hard Polish name. I'm sorry. Who's a county court circuit judge in the Milwaukee County, ran against a guy by the name of Dan Kelly, who was previously a judge. He was named by the Republican governor, Scott Walker, to fill a sudden vacancy on the Supreme Court of Wisconsin. But he only served for like 2 years, and then it came up. Wisconsin Supreme Court judges are voted for 10-year terms. So she ran against, and there's been, oh God, so many people who have been trying to run and get onto the court on the left, progressive side for 2 decades, and the Republicans have always come up with just these horrible lying, scheming bullshit things, like this one guy, Lewis Butler, who was somebody I personally knew, just an absolutely exemplary human being, and they came up with him. Oh well, he let this guy out, and of course, to scare everybody, it was a black guy, and they used the worst photograph possible of the guy, and all these kind of things, and it was absolutely not true. There was no truth. How can you just completely lie about something that's so checkable? But most people don't check, so they voted him in, or the Republican in, and that started a whole juggernaut of Wisconsin Supreme Court being extremely conservative. And so this is just a real big thing that the left wing won it. Now, why is it a big thing today? Because one of the things that the previous Republican governorship did to Wisconsin, notice we say did to Wisconsin, not for Wisconsin, was to gerrymander and get the state Senate and state House just completely Republican, deeply Republican, that they could super veto virtually anything that came across, or ram something through. And so the Democrats had no fucking voice whatsoever. Well, they continued to gerrymander every 10 years with the census, like everybody does, and made it worse and worse and worse as far as how bizarre the districts are getting in their physical shape and reach and all that thing. And so heavily designed to exclude as many Black, Hispanic, people of color from having any chance of voting for a candidate of their choice and having an account. Okay. The Democrats sued the state for this, and the court case went through the whole process all the way up to the Supreme Court, who said, "Oh no, this looks fine to us." Of course, it was the Republican Supreme Court. Even though all the election fairness committees, all the terrorist watch groups and all this kind of stuff said these are the worst in the country, that Wisconsin is gerrymandering worse than anybody in the country, to the point that in the last several elections, statewide elections, Wisconsin has cast more votes that were Democrat than were Republican by sometimes 5-10%. But the Republicans still got the seats. Does that tell you something?
Yeah. The way the
so-
districts have been gerrymandered, several Republicans have been winning elections while having less than 40% of the votes cast.
Yeah, it's really something. Anyway, now that she's on board, the law, there will be other lawsuits because the left side has been waiting for this to happen, and it will eventually be overturned. These gerrymandering, when the gerrymandering is overturned, Democrats will start to hold office, and then they'll be able to get the state back in order, including things like abortion, an abortion bill. Lots of women's rights stuff, LGBTQ things that haven't been as threatened as badly in Wisconsin as other places, but it's still on the edge. And it's just hopefully going to make Wisconsin a proper progressive state that has been for the last 150 years or so.
Yeah. The other thing that's really gratifying about that election is that she won in a landslide. She just crushed this right-wing idiot.
In some districts, she won 2-1.
Yeah, and the other part about it is that the gender crits and organizations like ADF, Americans Defending Families, defending my ass, they went all in on the using anti-trans rhetoric to sway the voters, and it doesn't work as an electoral issue. The more they push this, the bigger they fail. I mean, it might work in certain areas, in certain districts. I mean, like Murray Trader Green's district, maybe it works. Maybe in Bobert's district, it nearly failed. I mean, she nearly lost that election in Colorado. So I don't think that the anti-trans crap is the magic bullet that conservatives seem to think it is.
Well,
I think most people simply do not care.
That's kind of
and they're sick of it.
I think I saw something.
Steph, that's the point I was hoping to make in the end here, if I may sum up one of my comments.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, Stephanie's right, and everything she just said. There are people who are better than I, and knowledge-wise, and being able to whip out the facts without not being able to remember words, who have been looking at this and watching all this and believe that the beginning of the end for the extreme conservatism in America is beginning to end. It's the beginning of the end. So it doesn't mean we're safe until we actually see things happening, but the vibes are out there that this may be going on, and this woman winning the judgeship for the next 10 years is going to make a big difference in that. So cross your fingers, folks, and keep voting away from those red bastards.
Yeah.
Yeah, Wisconsin is weird. I mean, it's a state produced Robert La Follette, who was a progressive, literally crusader,
fighting Bob La Follette.
Yeah, and at the turn of the last century, I mean, he ran for president, was a real crusader, and Hubert Humphrey, was senator.
That's Minnesota.
Oh, that's Minnesota. I got mixed up.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Was it Milwaukee that had the period where they kept voting socialists in as mayors?
Yes, Milwaukee had 3 socialist mayors back in the 40s and 50s.
And then you get Joe McCarthy.
Yeah, sort of.
Yeah, well, that came from a known red section of the state in the Appleton area, and I have pissed on his grave personally.
Oh, good for you! I was kind of hoping to do that when I was in the beautiful Fox Valley, but didn't have the opportunity.
Well, I can show you where the cemetery is.
Well, apparently even conservatives are getting tired of the whole trans issue.
I was see if I could stomach. Well, see, hearing that sort of good news though, that's a little bit of a, little bit of a dent in them. If I could stomach drinking the stuff, I'd actually celebrate with a Bud Light right now. But
I haven't heard this story. What's going on with Bud Light anyway?
Okay, they've got a can at the moment with a rainbow flag on, and I forget, but they've got a trans woman who's like the spokesperson for Bud Light at the moment. I forget who it is.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
But the flipping
Dana
the
Mulvaney.
gender criticals and the right wingers are losing their mind over it. But the funniest ones is that they're all on about like boycotting Budweiser and Bud Light. They don't understand how a boycott works for a start, because they all took pictures of themselves like buying like a 6-pack of Bud Light and putting it in the bin, and like,
Yeah.
you can't quite figure out how a fucking boycott works, have you?
That's so stupid.
But my favourite one was Kevin Sorbo, who says, "Well, I always preferred Busch Light anyway." So, and I'm like, Bud Light's owned by Anheuser-Busch, you fucking muppet.
Yeah.
Actually, I kind of like Kid Rock's one where he's shooting up a bunch of Bud Light.
And I think it's Busch. I think it's Busch, Miller beer, and a couple other American beers are all owned by a South African brewing company.
Yeah, they're all. I think they're a big part of a big conglomerate, but they got the brewing rights to things like Corona, Stella Artois, all lots of pretty much all the big name brands. But yeah, I thought that was the funniest one. Kevin Sorbo saying, "Look, I prefer Busch Light anyway," and I'm like,
Stella
Artois, Anheuser-Busch, you muppet.
Stella Artois.
I get a huge kick out of. Sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah.
I get a huge kick out of how people are losing their minds over rainbows. I mean, for God's sake, really? Rainbows? I mean, aren't rainbows kind of a key part of the whole Noah's Ark thing? No, God turned the world gay, or
they claim.
And then there's this whole uproar about the celebration of the 50th anniversary of the release of Dark Side of the Moon, when they put out the cover of the fucking album on Twitter, and people were losing their minds. Pink Floyd, you're all woke and whatnot. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? We did this 50 years ago. It's the same fucking album cover. What's wrong with you people?
They claim, the whole Bible rainbow thing. They claim that the homosexual community stole the rainbow from the Bible.
Ricky Gervais makes I mean, I'm not the biggest Ricky Gervais fan, but you want to see if you haven't seen his routine on Noah's Ark, that is absolutely hilarious. And he's going for this like kids book he had when he still had to go to Sunday school, and it's going through the whole like flood story and so on, and because he remembered, like, he said he showed the book to Carl Pilkington, and Carl Pilkington says, "God sounds a bit gay," and but it's like, but he did. So obviously there was a big. He said, so God stretched his bow back in the sky. It was a rainbow. Ricky Gervais, like, that's got to be like the world's first pun, isn't it?
Indeed. I mean, after all, the gay community is in fact quite Promethean in that we did steal the rainbow from God.
Well, God should have had it trademarked,
Yeah.
That's what I'm waiting for, is some Republican to actually, with their lack of science knowledge, to introduce a bill to ban the weather, NOAA, National Weather Service, from creating rainbows.
That's a heck of an idea. You should start a campaign, Jenny. I think that's a really good idea.
Well,
that should not sound plausible.
Who do we know in Georgia? Because I think to lobby for that, because I think Marjorie Taylor Greene would actually do it.
Yeah, I could see that happening.
Okay, I tell you what, somebody out there, because I cannot generate original graphics on my phone, or edit photographs the way I would in Photoshop. Would somebody or everybody, could you send me some images of rainbows? Okay, I don't know how to describe it because it has to cook in my brain, but various shots of rainbows outside. And once they're in Twitter, in my DMs, then I can use that and as part of a meme. But I can't do it from ground zero. So look at the web, find what you can as far as rainbows go, and send them to me as DMs, and I'll see what I can do. I think maybe that would be fun.
Yeah, you can tell that they've started using the AI to try and figure out what they're going to ban. I don't think it was Florida this time. I forget which state it was, but having one of those rules about that they were going to ban books and movies and such if a parent complained about it. And apparently they were just going by the keyword rainbow because one of the things that got on the ban list was the song Rainbow Connection, from the Muppet movie.
Well, what they're going to do now be what they're going to do about the next thing will be a class action lawsuit against Richie Blackmore and the estate of Ronnie James Dio over the band Rainbow.
Well, if the rainbow's banned, then they don't have to worry about it, right?
Mm.
Heat Shield says nobody owns the goddamn rainbow except leprechauns who seem to be able to find where they touch down and keep them there long enough to do extensive mining operations.
Hey, Heat Shield, haven't seen you in ages. Hi, nice to see you again.
Yeah.
Did y'all hear that a guy in Utah actually has introduced a bill to ban the Bible because of its obscenity? And it has to be taken seriously, apparently, with the law the way it's written.
Yeah, somebody tried it in Florida too. Unfortunately, it didn't get very far down there.
It's I was gonna say if they don't like obscenity and violence and all that. Have they actually read their book?
No, most people have not actually.
Orla's got a point. They need to edit out the story of Joseph because he was wearing a rainbow coat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say I was gonna. So I was gonna say. I was going to say Zippy, Bungle, and George must be worried, but I think I'm the only person here who gets that joke. So it's a British reference, unfortunately. I think I'm the only one who's going to get it.
I do that all the time. It is so frustrating when I come up with a good joke and realize that this only works with a group of people I haven't seen in 10 years, and today no one will get it.
Yeah. I just had a look in the chat. I can't see any of my fellow Brits there, so.
I just checked and I misspoke. It wasn't a bill that was introduced. Somebody made a complaint to a school board, and that's why it has to be actually looked at. It can't be just ignored.
Yeah, either way.
Well, it's a good step. The people need to understand how absolutely Looney Tunes these guys are.
Yeah. Yeah, and how broadly sweeping their laws are. That they don't realize these legislation they're passing, is not very specific, and it's going to wind up screwing up a lot of things even they like.
I wish they'd all find another hobby. That's all mine. That'd be something else they can do with their time besides worry about stuff that has absolutely nothing to do with, can't affect their lives in any way, shape, or form. It's ridiculous.
I forgot which state it was, but apparently there is a bathroom bill that made it out there. But the good thing is I'm hearing chatter from transgender men out there that just cannot wait for it to be officially passed so they can start walking into the women's bathroom and freaking the fuck out of them. and have the law behind them that they have to do it.
Yep.
All that stuff is so stupid. And by the way, I'm sad for the United Kingdom's the Equality and Human Rights Commission decided that they'd go the full Trump route and try to define sex as being immutable and assigned at birth. That bullshit. It's bad. I just finished watching. Katie Montgomery was on Owen Bennett Jones's. Not Owen Bennett Jones, but Owen Jones.
Owen Jones, yeah. He's had Katie on a few times actually.
Yeah. They just did the rundown on the thing, and it's just come on, people. And Starmer is so fucking useless. I mean, my God.
He has got it. I was going to mention him earlier in relation to something Jenny actually said, which was going to be somewhat supportive of him, but I have to also put it in the context that the guy is an absolute wet blanket who's pandering to the right all the time, and it's disgusting. He's not. I think he realised he seems to be forget the whole point being in opposition is to actually oppose the Conservatives at some point.
Yeah. I mean, he's not going to win anything. All it's going to do is piss off people on his own side.
Well, this is the
so
thing.
Stupid.
The thing is, right? Ever since the 98, this has been the problem with the Labour Party for a long, long time now. They think they've got to win, that they've got to pander to the right and pander to likes of Rupert Murdoch and whatever, because it worked for Tony Blair. They think that's the way it's got to. You've got. And the thing is, it's like Starmer doesn't need to do this. If he just opposed a bit more, he'd win because the Tories are so unpopular anyway. He doesn't need to. If anything, he's actually ruining his chances of. I think he's going to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory here.
Well, it's the same situation the Republicans are facing here now. Is that, if they try to avoid doing anything that's going to offend their base, they can't possibly win in a federal election. One of the commentators said something that I think is very true now, is that no Republican candidate can win a primary without Trump's endorsement, but none of them can win a federal election with Trump's endorsement.
14 out of 17 elections, on the last elections, who featured a mega candidate lost.
Yep. Yeah, they just don't play well on the larger stage. They only play well to the Republican base. And that's still only 35% of the population. It's not quite enough to get them into office.
You ask a lot of people, the parties are all the same. It doesn't really help if people are thinking that the parties are all the same. If the leadership of the supposed opposition party winds up making it look the same, then it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You're not going to win a goddamn thing. That's what Starmer is, just nuts.
Yeah, it is the problem that we only have the two choices. And right now, it's not even left or right. Our choices are right or extreme right.
Well, the problem is what we call the Parliamentary Labour Party, which is essentially their members of Parliament. They spent 4 years trying to sabotage their own elected leader of their own party, because they sooner would have lost badly than have won an election with Jeremy Corbyn,
which is a fucking shame.
Yeah, actually, before he got rid of his personal profile on Facebook, I was Facebook friends. I've met Corbyn 4 or 5 times. He's genuinely decent human being. I don't agree with everything he said or he's done in the past, and he did make some fuck ups. I'm not going to say he didn't, but the fact of the matter is that the Parliamentary Labour Party did everything they could to fuck him, and it's like they would have sooner have lost than won with him in the leadership.
And that's why you got Bojo for as long as you had him hanging around.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, Corbyn went through two general elections. He almost won one of them because he came very, very close to ousting Theresa May. And if they got behind him from the start there, he would have ousted Theresa May. I've no doubt in my mind about that. And then they absolutely, to the point now where he's effectively, he's near enough effectively been expelled from the Labour Party now as Corbyn. So
I was wondering what you all did on Indictment Day, which will be a national holiday soon.
well, I couldn't help it. I couldn't help it earlier with Kevin Sorbo's tweeting out Trump 2024, and I actually said, "Oh, I'm all in favour for Donald Trump getting 4 years, and by then, not in the way Kevin Sorbo thinks." So I believe technically that's like what he could face. He could technically face if he's convicted on all of these. It's 4 years, I believe.
I was.
I'm not that hopeful it's going to happen. I'm not that hopeful though that he's going to get convicted. Honestly.
Well, if he does get convicted and gets sentenced, if there's sentencing, I hope they decide to lock him up in not in Pervalago down there in Florida, but lock him up in Trump Tower.
Well, I think they only.
That'd be fun. Let's put the ankle bracelet on him. You can't leave your fucking golden throne.
Am I right in assuming they only need 4 of these charges to stick, and he is and then he's fucked for running for president? That's what I've heard.
No, I don't think he's constitutionally barred. Even you can run from. I mean, Eugene V. Debs ran from prison.
But how many offences was he convicted of?
I don't know.
I don't think the number of offences matters.
I was hearing. This is just what I was hearing on the radio earlier today. Because there's 34 charges and apparently 4 of them stick. He won't be able to run. Is what I was hearing. Now I'm just wondering if that was correct what I heard, but.
Jenny posted that one to Twitter earlier.
I like it.
Yeah, I'm in favour of that one.
Yeah. We'll go back to the puppy can though.
I didn't do anything special for Indictment Day. I did sort of watch while working away.
She was sitting nice and peacefully the entire time I had setting this up, and then she started moving around as soon as I got it set up on her. Well, you can see where she had the surgery done. The shaved belly.
Yeah. But she's doing okay with it. She's not picking at it or anything.
Nope. She tried looking at it a little bit once, and then I stopped her, and she decided to roll over and let me pet her belly. So.
Yeah, Andrea's asking, is the Tower of London where the Queens were locked up?
Yep. That's yeah. I was gonna say I wouldn't mind saying that we could take Trump off your hands, put him in the tower, and put him up on the rack. Go a bit old school.
Well, why don't they just go on the January 6th thing? Declare Trump a domestic terrorist and throw him in Guantanamo Bay.
Yeah, you don't need to go through all that hassle of a jury or anything.
I think the Don would like Cuba. It's an awful lot like South Florida. So
Sorry, I got booted off.
You need me to
You
shut
did.
down. Need me to shut down the Molly camp so you won't keep getting booted off. If you have trouble, I know more people on here. It tends to affect you.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know whether or not that's affecting anything.
Well, if it starts bothering you, I'll shut this thing down. So
I'm not bothered. I like doggies. A friend of mine and his wife just got a dog. Well, not just. Last fall, and I got to get over there this weekend to visit it for the first time. Its name is Eggnog, which I think is just a terrible name for a dog. But anyways,
yeah.
It's a Saint Bernard Poodle mix. And at the age of 5 months, the thing is, I'd say about 7 inches at the shoulder and about 80 pounds. And it's got another 8 months to grow. It's going to be a really big fucking dog. And she's just totally sweet. So it'll be fun.
Aunt Jer wanted to share a picture of her pirate kitty or her parrot kitty sitting up on her shoulder while she's trying to work.
Anybody see that video that's going around the net right now? It's like a house that has cats. It looks like it has maybe 6-7 cats living in the house, and they're all just peaceably hanging out, watching out the window, laying down, sleeping, calmly walking through the scene, and some item in the room falls down silently. And when it hits the floor, every one of the cats just absolutely freaks out, and it turns into this chain reaction in a reactor. Everyone that reacted causes another one to react again, which causes another one to react again, and it goes on for like a minute. Cats just bouncing off the walls.
I did see a video of a bunch of it's like a dozen cats or so all looking at the window watching like the same bird. And they're all just kind of following it.
That'd be fun to see too. I'm sure this thing has gone enough that it's got to be an actual meme. Maybe you could probably search it down pretty easily. Freaking out cats or something like that.
I saw a little clip from the CBC, the Canadian broadcasters, that apparently there's a volunteer organization in Canada that is taking comfort dogs around airports to calm people's stress when they have to be waiting a long time for their planes.
Oh, that's nice.
That's a very, very practical idea, I believe.
Unless you happen to be afraid of dogs.
Yeah.
I have heard that there are some police departments that have comfort dogs on hand for either officers when they come in from something stressful that happened, or people who have to come to the jailhouse for whatever reason, that to help relax them and all that kind of stuff. I thought that was
that's a good idea.
Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
Especially, if people are there like making a statement about that they were involved or they were the victim of a crime or something.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I don't want to hate the cops, but they gotta get off on their military kick.
Yeah. Better training, psychological evaluation regularly.
Yeah. Yeah, they need to be better about just how to interact with the general public without escalating violence.
Maybe better filtration of who gets in to become a cop.
Yeah, well, part of the problem is that they tend to give a preference to ex-military. And military training doesn't really train you to, sort things out. Military training generally trains people to regard everyone as the enemy.
Yeah.
So there's a wide difference between policing and soldiering.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other thing with soldiering is that, you're under somebody's command. So basically they're used to doing what they're ordered to do without feeling that they're going to be held accountable for any of the consequences.
I think it's also important to note when we're talking about American cops and their history and all this kind of stuff. The cities didn't just automatically have cops. From the day of the Revolution. The sheriffs in town and that kind of stuff. The police forces were created to chase after runaway slaves and to get them, capture them and send them back to their owners. And so its culture has remained from all the way back. This culture has just moved forward with
our police were basically formed to keep the working class in line. So
Same thing.
Yeah, they were basically formed there to protect the property owners. Carol's saying that her neighbor's dog alerts him of oncoming epileptic attacks. And one of my late fiance's cats would sometimes be aware of her having an asthma attack before she started. And the cat would always come and get me if I wasn't in the room.
I wonder if her former home had somebody with health issues. It was because whenever I lay down on the couch, she comes over. She feels like she has to come over and check on me.
Could be.
That is amazing, Carol. I think we all know that the reason dogs can do that is because our bodies put out certain chemicals that they can smell. And it is amazing that anybody noticed that about diabetes, although there are dogs that warn you of diabetic issues too. It's just amazing that we've learned to work with dogs that way to be that part of our society.
Let's have a little comparison here. Okay, dogs can be trained, to sniff out drugs, sniff out like cancer in human beings, guide the blind, help the deaf, actually helper dogs that can help disabled people. So dogs can be trained to do all these things. Cats can be trained to shit in a box.
No, cats can actually pick up on the stuff too. My first cat actually picked up on my mom whenever she started going to a diabetic reaction, and actually paw at her and try and keep her out of to get her to get up.
Cats are just as good as dogs are about finding drugs. Just they do it when the humans aren't around because they don't want to share.
Yeah. That's why a lot of the times cats look like they're absolutely stoned.
Well, there was Bub's cat during the stream.
Yeah. What was the final? I didn't see. Did anyone know what was the final total on that thing the other day? I didn't see the end.
I think it was like 800 something.
Oh, cool.
Let me see if I can double check here.
Yeah, the dogs are just so amazingly sensitive. That they can do all these different things, such a diverse talents that they have.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, it was actually under. It's actually gone up since the marathon. It's $900 now.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty good. So you only got about 500 more to go.
Yep. Yeah. Got around 2/3 of the way there now.
Oh, Bub and Alex?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Actually, hold on,
Alex's
let me-
ticket to Germany.
Let me pull that back up. I'll put it in the chat here. Closed it on me. All right, there it is. All right, I'll stick this in the chat. So if anybody wants to add some donations to that.
Yeah, thanks, Mage. I'm having to keep my mic muted. My throat has been off for the last several days.
Yeah, so I did send you the link the other day, Jenny. I was a bit gutted you missed our stream, but mind you, it was early for you, so.
What was that topic? I'm sorry.
Stream I did on like why I support trans and non-binary people.
Oh yeah. I meant to get that.
Yeah.
And I just overslept. Well, I didn't
Yeah.
my normal sleeping hours.
Well, to be fair, you didn't oversleep. I mean, just to be honest, let's be honest here. It's because we're like 6 hours ahead of where you are, so
Yep.
yeah. So it'd been quite early it'd been fairly early in the morning for you.
Yeah, it's one of the things here I've been thinking about pushing the time back on the stream, probably about 2 hours. You know, to put it a little later in the evening for the UK people. You know, hopefully that we could get more people from the UK and Western Europe in here.
Yeah. Yeah. See, this is the thing. Now you're going to make it too late for me. No, I mean that's what honestly perks. You know, but it's just this the ones I struggled to, that I don't often get to your midnight streams because that's the ones when I'm normally getting up or you know.
Well, that's originally I had thought that with this being on at like 6 in the UK, that would be a good time, but apparently that's been too early for a lot of people there.
Yeah, I think for some people that's about the time. Like a lot of them, some of them are just getting home from work. Others might be home from work, but are just sort of like sorting their dinner out or whatever. So maybe because of the shifts I work or whatever, I'm usually done all that sort of stuff well before 6 o'clock. So, but of course I've been signed off for like 4 weeks. So I've still got about a week and a half to go. So,
well, if you do push it forward, I will probably have to leave earlier during the streams to catch the so I don't end up getting dark out before I can go take care of the chickens. Because once it starts getting dark early, I have to get out there like before 4.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand that. Like I say, my sister up in Michigan had chickens, and sometimes I had to go out there and put them in for her because she was getting home from work too late.
And plus, I also now have to walk this one here beforehand as well.
All right, I can start a topic. Is it wrong to develop a crush on your doctor?
That could be a little uncomfortable.
It's not wrong, but I could see it can make things awkward.
Yeah, it could be a slight professional issue for the doctor.
Yeah.
That's all we get for that topic? Oh, geez. Sorry. I thought it would be more popular to talk about.
Well, good old Freud and transference and all of that.
Yeah, but it's not my mommy.
Well, clearly you just want to possess your mother.
Hi, Diana.
Hi, Diana, but we were talking about
Yeah,
chickens.
don't.
Nobody mentioned cows.
Moo.
Diana, have you ever developed a crush on any of your doctors?
Well, I've mentioned a couple of times about just before I left New York, we got a new GP at the clinic who was this Pakistani woman who was just absolutely gorgeous to the point that I started considering self-inflicted injuries to have more excuses to go to the clinic.
Yow. You got it bad.
Boy, how do you keep going with your phone when Jenny? StreamYards is eating up my battery. You like it's candy.
Yeah, it does that. I keep my phone plugged into a power source during this show. And if I go into the show that is, big, strong, 100%, it will tend to hang at 100% for over an hour, like it has now.
I don't have a cord that will connect this far out, unfortunately.
Actually, Mage, what you should do is get yourself one of those USB battery packs.
Oh,
because
actually,
then you can just plug that into the phone as a much larger battery that'll let it keep going for hours.
in fact, I have one, and actually I have one that's actually a hand crank generator F2, so I could do that. Yeah. Never mind. It's not. I'm not gonna keep it up for very long anyway.
I have two batteries. One I bought from Walmart. It was $8, and it's like 13,000 milliamp hours. And that will keep things running just fine. You can charge the phone from zero like about 2.5 times off that little thing. It's about the size of a man's wallet. And then I have this other big Mamu one that will charge by solar, but it's very, very, very slow doing that. Much better to charge it in a house circuit.
Yeah, I was given after the whole hurricane thing. Someone gave me this generator has a solar generator on it has a plug for a phone, has a built-in radio, has a flashlight, and has a hand crank generator if you can't plug it in for anything or get sunlight. So it's really nice.
Well, this one I bought at Walmart was about $10. And it's surprisingly well made. The case all fits real nice. There's not like hanging over edges or misalignments of any sort, and it just works as it's supposed to. And this other one I got from Amazon. It's 26,000 milliamps, and I can charge 3 things at once on it.
I got this other one. I haven't even opened it yet. It's more of a standard one. It looks like I can charge 2 things on it by the look of the package.
Yeah, Sloth Girl's got one that she keeps in her bag to take to chemo. Because even if she forgets to charge it, that thing will power her tablet for several hours, doing anything she wants in chemo.
The times I've had to spend overnight at the hospital, it's only been like 3 or 4 times. Were planned, weren't known in advance. It wasn't an emergency situation, and so I prepared myself and brought all my chargers and things, and plugged right into the hospital, power in the wall, and charge everything that way. Plus, the hospital had Wi-Fi, so it was better than being at home.
Yeah. Well, I've
Diana.
got my own emergency thing here because I've got a radio that works off of my my power tool battery packs, and it's got a USB port on it, so I can basically keep recharging the cell phones off of my power tool battery packs in an outage.
That's a good idea.
And it's like, yeah, the battery pack that runs my drill would charge the cell phone several dozen times.
Oh,
Okay, Antjer said that if you're going to eat on the stream, you got to tell her what you're eating.
Kettle cooked potato chip.
Who's eating? I can't get my damn food stamps.
Oh, have you heard also millions are going to be kicked off Medicaid because of the end of the whole pandemic thing?
Yeah, I have. Happily, I'm not one of them.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
It had to do mostly with which states took the Medicaid assistance to begin with.
Yeah, okay.
And so that's being cut. And along with that, SNAP, if you were getting your food stamp through the SNAP program, you might be experiencing the cut in that too, Diana.
Okay, no, I don't have the EBT card. I lost it, and for the last 3 weeks, I've been trying to get it replaced, and they keep telling me it's on its way. It's on its way. I haven't seen it. But yeah, I think I am going to get a lot of my food stamp money cut.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about it, though, is that I've got a hell of a balance built up because I couldn't eat what they were giving me. So, I mean, I've got something like $2,500 in food stamps. If I could ever get to use them.
Yeah, I got a nice bonus with that through the COVID. Now that they're cutting it out, my food stamps are so minimal that I really wouldn't even bother with them, except it's all on the same form as applying for the medical assistance.
Yeah, what are they giving you, like $30 as well?
Actually, before the pandemic, it was $16 a month.
Okay, yeah. They say they give me 35. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, again, that's something that's kind of figured out, by the state. So it's going to vary depending where you live.
Yeah, I used to get 16.
Yeah, so far they haven't been able to get at Social Security, but the Republicans are really trying. The Republicans do want to cut Social Security benefits if they can.
This is from The Onion, but I still gotta find this hilarious. Seriously, the Onion could just do legit reporting nowadays.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the sad thing that you can't tell the difference. People can't seem to tell the difference between like what's the satire and what's real nowadays.
Yeah, and even the number of times that high-profile politicians have been tripped up because they wound up quoting something from The Onion because they didn't realize it was satire.
My favorite one was he's actually a politician from Trinidad called Jack Warner. Now he used to be on like the board of FIFA, which obviously governing body of global soccer around the world, and notoriously corrupt organization. And Jack Warner is in Trinidad trying to defend himself because he was one of the most corrupt people in that organization. Of an organization of corrupt people, he was one of the worst. And he said if FIFA is so bad, he's holding up this newspaper article to defend himself. There's this thing here that that FIFA are going to organise an extra special World Cup and give it to America next year, which of course it turned out to be from The Onion. And John Oliver had the best quote about this. He said Jack Warner was part of FIFA, and he obviously realised it. He's obviously thinking to himself, yeah, FIFA's that corrupt. Yeah, that sounds something like what we would actually do.
My favorite is the one, I can't remember which politician, but it was thinking that they're putting cat boxes in schools for kids who identify as cats.
Yeah. Oh, actually, there was. I didn't see the actual what it was, but there was a TikTok that I think a trans woman put out the other day that got everyone riled up. Which I think if anyone, everyone who I didn't see it, but everyone who watched it who actually's got a brain cell said it's a fucking April. It was obviously an April Fool, and the girl had to explain to her that this was a fucking April Fool. That. Yeah, well, what can you say?
Well, we just run out of things to talk about.
Oh, sounds like I've killed the conversation again.
No, I was wondering if that was
Sundays we do that.
if that was Dana Mulvaney who did that April Fool thing. That woman is just getting shredded by the haters.
Unfortunately, the one that Mage brought up about the litter boxes, the Republicans are still using that.
They're still on that one?
Yeah.
They continue to use that to push transgender legislation, anti-trans legislation.
Oh, jeez.
Yep, of course, 100% not true. Well, it did have a real basis, a basis in reality. I think that's fair to mention too. That as a thing that they thought might be a good idea to have available in schools is if there's a lockdown and these little kids are stuck in some room for hours on end, they're going to need somewhere to pee.
Yep.
And so they gave 5-gallon bucket things full of litter for to keep on hand in case that were to happen.
Yeah.
So it's not there's not like a litter box sitting there, but they have made plans for shootings, which is just shocking as fuck.
I just want to run away.
It's bad everywhere, Diana.
Say again, honey?
Bye,
It's
Tina.
bad everywhere. You know that.
You said you can't go anywhere?
I said it's bad everywhere.
Oh, yeah, pretty much. Well, yeah, that's, yeah, I hadn't filled in the blanks. I want to run away, but there's nowhere to run to.
Hmm.
Survive.
I was just about to chime in and say, where to?
Yeah. I don't know. Kate's got a point, I guess. She wants her biological parents to come from that extrasolar planet and take her away.
I will literally pay you to abduct me.
Yeah.
What extrasolar planet? I missed the telegram on this.
Yeah, she's fantasizing about her parents being on an extrasolar planet and coming and taking her away.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Well, I think I'm stuck here because my recovery ship is already 2 years late. I was only supposed to be here long enough to do my thesis work on pre-space flight cultures.
Okay.
Well, speaking about things that I actually was hoping, this may be how bloody ignorant I actually was to this, but something that I was hoping was a bloody April Fool. I just seen all these blooming right wingers from America tweeting about fucking Confederate History Month.
Oh yeah,
I was fucking hoping that was an April Fool, but I was like,
no, unfortunately.
No, actually, it was Ring who actually clued me in on that, saying, "No, this is genuine."
I'm sure that
because
the states in the southeast quarter of the country are definitely going to go with that.
Well, I think Ring and I are planning on marking it actually by maybe doing a reaction to one of Atunche's Checkmate Lincolnites videos, which I don't know if any of you have seen any of them. They are fucking brilliant.
Let's see. Confederate History Month is a month designated by 7 state governments in the southern United States. They include Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Louisiana, Mississippi, Texas, and Virginia.
Well, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, I just had to put on the kitty cam, but Sylvia was apparently aware when I put her on, because that's when she looked directly into the camera.
She's not
Diana, I haven't. This is the first time I've seen it. I'd like to congratulate you on being one of the only human beings that understands the proper format positioning of that moon and sun and
the Apollo 8 shot.
Yeah. Everybody turns it to like it's a horizon, and it wasn't. It was a vertical.
I did not know that was the orientation it was intended in, because I've always seen it, like you say, laid out as a horizon.
Yeah, I guess whoever it was that put it on the cover of Life magazine thought it looked better as a horizontal picture.
Yeah, which doesn't really make sense because, just the format of a magazine cover, it would have looked better vertically. They wouldn't have had to crop as much of it.
Yeah. Huh?
Well, they also didn't really want to, upset any flat earthers.
Yeah.
I very rarely respond to flat earthers now. It's just like it kind of feels like kicking puppies now.
Yeah.
They're just such an unbelievable group.
Might as well argue with a brick wall. I mean, it's just what.
I did see someone had posted the because that is that account on Twitter, Great Believer, who's always tweeting flat Earth stuff, and of course doesn't back anything up. But it put something up about like the spin or rotation of the Earth or whatever, and someone had to post the old GIF or what up there of the 15 degree an hour thing, and thanks Bob
puppy.
Flat earthers, presuppositionalists. I mean, what? It just gets old, tiresome.
Okay, Scummer, you have to call it a GIF. Otherwise, I'm going to go back to calling you Geoff.
Fair enough. Yeah. That's fair enough.
Yeah, and we have to start calling it a guillotine.
Chadless Scummer.
Mm-hmm. Or wouldn't that be Jodless?
Okay, not all Christians are irrational. I actually feel that the majority of them have just never really thought about it. They've just gone along with what they were taught as children and never given it much thought.
Well, yeah, that's the whole idea behind indoctrinating them at age 0.
Yep. Which I think is why we're seeing, the number of declared atheists going up. Because exposure to the internet is making the teenagers question these things more.
Mm-hmm.
They're not just stuck with what their family or their community is teaching them. They're talking to people all around the world.
Not teaching, indoctrinating.
Inculcating. How's that?
Yeah.
Inculcating. No, I want to insist that everybody use the word indoctrinating because that's first of all what they're doing. But if they're going to attack LGBTQ people about indoctrinating these kids pedophilia, fine, they get it back.
Yeah,
they're indoctrinating children to some mysticism.
Well, let's be honest here. do people who allow their children regularly around priests have any fucking business giving anyone lectures about indoctrination into like paedophilic behaviors?
Well, I tend to think they don't, but
yeah, I mean, you know, if you're gonna just saying, statistically speaking, if you're gonna let your kids around priests, you know.
Yeah.
Well, what was it that Hitchens said in one of his talks? If somebody came to his door wearing holy orders, asking for his kid,
he called the police. Yeah. Oh, that was his one against with the Catholic Church. I forget, it was Hitchens and Stephen Fry against, I forget the name of the Catholic archbishop, but it was a
I can see his
British politician called Anne Widdecombe, well, she used to be devout Church of England, and then she swapped to Catholicism, mainly because she was disgusted that the Church of England decided to ordain women.
Yeah.
Which is kind of hypocritical, seeing as she's a woman who was an MP. But
sure.
Yeah.
I think that's some of the strongest evidence that God doesn't exist. You know, is if God isn't even aware of the stuff that's going on in the churches, he can't really be aware of much of anything, can he?
Yeah, a timely story from the Associated Press. The Maryland Attorney General's office has publicly released, this is like 15 minutes ago, has publicly released a redacted version of an investigative report detailing sex abuse allegations against more than 150 Catholic priests and examining the Archdiocese of Baltimore's response.
So they still had to get a
groomers.
Yeah.
150? Real, for fuck's sake, in one diocese?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm from Boston, and I, remember all of that stuff, and the fact that Cardinal Law got his ass relocated, to the Vatican after the whole thing. Jesus Christ, still going on, like 8 years later, 10 years later.
Yeah, I'll just wait. I'll just wait for the next time I hear a Roman Catholic telling me that Francis is cleaning it all up. Yeah, okay, bullshit, is he?
I like to retweet any notice I see on Twitter about this priest or this cop or this whatever was just busted or convicted of messing with children, and I just, in big bold letters up on top, and I always type the same thing. And yet another non-trans person, drag queen is busted for, is busted. I stopped there.
Yeah. It's amazing how often it turns out to be cis white guys.
Yeah.
But of course, they'll never admit to that, and that's like this most recent shooting. They're trying to blame it on the fact that the shooter was trans, and this is like, okay, there have been 3 trans shooters out of the last 2,000.
Yeah,
2,700 plus. 2,000. Sorry, 2,800 plus. Since 2018.
4 out of, it was actually a little over 3,000, and there's only been 4 in the past 5 years.
I thought it was 3 trans people, 1 non-binary.
One non-binary, and the non-binary one was
non-binary.
Yeah, the non-binary one was the Colorado shooter who made that assertion at trial.
I see.
Well,
yeah.
Even if you count them, that only comes out with what I was looking at. It's defining a mass shooting as 4 more people being shot or killed. It came over 3,000 within the past 5 years since that whole thing, and the figure came out to be 0.084%, it being a result of trans.
Yeah, so literally less than 1 in 1,000. and yet they're sure that that's the cause of all of it.
Yeah.
It couldn't have anything to do with the fact that fucking anybody can get a gun. Oh, and on that note, DeSantis signed a new law this week.
Oh, in Florida, yeah.
Yeah, allowing for people in Florida to conceal carry without requiring a permit.
Yeah, and that's not the.
Oh, jeez.
Yep.
And even most of the Republicans opposed this, but DeSantis wanted it anyway.
And that's what's going to hurt his chances.
It's amazing. When DeSantis opposes his own party.
Yeah.
The thing like that.
Yeah, even most of the Republicans opposed this, and every police department in the state opposed it. DeSantis still thought it was a good idea.
Yeah.
He's just trying to kiss up to his base, and he doesn't
You know,
realize that that's not going to be enough to win him the presidency.
God's guns and gays.
Well, I can only hope that he loses the presidency over that. The problem is, I'm afraid that Trump will win.
Yeah.
Trump will never, ever win the popular vote in Electoral College. Never. There's way too many people that are livid from his existence
Trump
now.
Win the popular vote, I know that.
Yeah, well, at this point, I don't think either Trump or DeSantis can win. But, it's still scary because the Democrats still don't really have a strong candidate.
Yeah, like I was saying.
I mean, it'll probably be Biden again, but
that's not a strong candidate. And like I said, we have Joe Manchin throwing his hat in the ring. I don't think he'll win either, but
yeah, well,
it's still scary.
Biden doesn't get anybody excited, and what the Democrats need to hold on to Congress is they need a high voter turnout. They need a candidate that's going to get more people to go out and vote.
Well, they have Marianne Williams, but they're going to be actively against her.
Yeah.
She's a nutcase.
No,
have you heard some of the stuff that she talks about?
I don't know enough about her
Are you
yet.
following the mainstream media bullshit? Because they are pumping out bullshit after bullshit on her.
I have seen her doing talks and heard her out of her own mouth a lot of these things that are a little bit off.
I've looked at her policies. She's got good policies. That's what matters to me.
Well, yeah, and that's what they said about Trump too.
No, that's not what they said about Trump.
Trump didn't have policies.
Trump didn't have policies. He had
but his core. That's what his core thought they did. No, you can't ignore the periphery of somebody who's off the edge. You just can't. We're done with having off the edge politicians. We can't afford that anymore.
Yeah.
Well, we have to go. We have to go through something like Biden and the mainstream bullshit that's not going to get anybody to vote. Is that what we want to go with?
Because you cannot
wait a minute.
You cannot vote any person in as president and expect them to change the system. The system is designed to last, to not change, and one person is not going to do it. A movement from the ground up will do it. And that's what the Republicans have done since 1980. Why they're in power now.
You can push people from the top up. You can use a bully pulpit. You have veto powers. You have be able to sign in stuff. There's a lot of power right there you can use that is not being used.
I would prefer that we didn't have this penchant for turning things into a gerontocracy. I'd prefer another younger, fresher, more progressive candidate than Joe Biden. But if you look at Joe Biden's record, including the past election, the performance of the Democratic Party in a midterm election, the past midterm election, was astonishingly good. Nobody expected. People expected that we'd lose the House, but they expected that we'd lose the House by 30 seats, and we didn't. And we picked up 2 in the Senate.
Yeah, that was the amazing thing.
I don't think you can. I don't think that you can make the. I don't think that you can make the case that Biden's a terrible politician. I think he's a tremendously successful politician. He's gotten through a lot of policies. Of course, it's not perfect, but talking down the top of the party
Yeah,
and
Oh,
talking down success
oh, and if you
when
want
it's
some,
there, evidently is not a key to success, to future success.
and if you want
I mean,
somebody on
you've
your
got to
side,
work with what we've got.
and if you want somebody on your side, right, William supports
Okay.
the Equality Act.
Hey, I
She's
got
on
an
your
idea.
side. You want to vote for somebody on your side? She's the one who's on your side, right, out there.
No, I've got an idea. Run me.
yeah. I'm not saying that Biden is terrible. I'm just saying that the general population finds him boring. It's not going to get a lot of people excited to go out and vote.
I prefer boring. I personally, at least I would prefer more excitement. I'd prefer a more charismatic figure. I'd prefer a younger figure. I would like to see.
Well,
I would like to see change.
my concern,
If that figure came forward in some manner or fashion, that would be great. And if he or she managed to get the retiring president's endorsement, so much the better. But I don't see that on the horizon. And at the moment, as a practical matter, I think we've got to do everything we can to prevent an exciting Republican like Ron DeSantis from getting the office.
That is always going to be the case. That's never going to change. So we need to make the change, even despite that. Because otherwise, we're never going to have that happen.
Okay.
Well, the problem is at this point, the Democrats don't have a good candidate that is recognized in all states. And
when
you've
has
got less
anybody
than
ever
a year
said
to
that?
do it. Well, that's how Trump won, because everyone knew who Trump was.
Trump won because he was a he had the name recognition. People thought he was a successful businessman, except if you were from New York, then you knew he was a fucking asshole that ruined everything he touched. And it's name recognition and a certain amount of charisma, which the Don has. Let's give him that.
And let's be honest, the Democrats put probably the worst fucking candidate they could have put up against him in 2016. Everybody knows Hillary shit.
I would not call it charisma. I call him annoying.
Yeah.
Well, I would agree, but he's got enough. He's got that raw magnetism that appeals to a certain class of voters, which is why I don't think DeSantis will win, because he's got the personality of a pancake.
Well,
and
the problem that the Democrats had in 2016 was they were thinking far too simplistically. They put Clinton up because they just believed that if they had a woman there, any woman didn't matter, that most of the women would vote for her.
Yeah, and the sad thing was, you'd seen the things going up to it. Even I was watching from the outside, seeing people were turning out for Bernie as well. And when they didn't, and when they got Hillary, I was there thinking, oh fuck.
Yeah, well,
Hillary ran a terrible campaign in the general election. She let states that she should have had get past her because she wasn't putting the resources into getting the vote out. It's not that she's that awful of a person, but she's not a very good politician.
It's my turn. It's not a successful platform, okay?
No.
Yeah. I had something there and now I lost it.
Oh, if you want to lock her up, go ahead. Stick her in next to Trump.
Oh, man.
Well, I certainly have no problem with them locking up some Democrats if they can actually come up with some charges of something illegal that they did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They keep wanting to investigate Democrats, and the investigations never turn up anything.
If you get to talking politics with any Republican, you know what you respond to them with nowadays? Well, what about Hunter Biden? Why haven't you guys investigated that? You screamed about it for years. Now's your chance. Why aren't you doing it?
Yeah, well, they probably will. I mean, they're certainly rattling swords about that.
That might be a good save for them.
They're not
for the
doing
election.
it. They're not doing it because they know there's nothing there.
Yeah,
they're using it just as a tennis ball.
I mean, the whataboutism can only go so far, as Purple just said. Okay, sure, lock them up if they've done something wrong, but if you can't prove
Well,
that
the
they've done
Republicans have been
anything
going on
wrong,
about Hunter Biden's laptop and claiming that they had the hard drive from that for the last 3 years. So if they have the hard drive and they have all the evidence, why didn't they do something before the midterm election?
Yeah, they'll probably save that for the presidential election, the saber rattle.
they tried it last time; it didn't work. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Again, I'd prefer a different scenario, but I don't see anything on the horizon that's going to change.
It's sadly it's on a smaller scale, but it's a similar crap has happened in the UK over with the absolute. I mean, listen, we all, I think we all, some of us said earlier what we think of Keir Starmer earlier, and I can't disagree. I think the guy's a wet blanket. But the way the right tried to come after him over him having a curry or whatever during a lockdown, which was investigated by the police, and they're like, no, there's nothing wrong here, just to try, and this was all driven by Tory MPs and flipping like newspapers like the Daily Mail, who are just so far up Boris Johnson's arse they could write a flipping full-page spread about his intestines, just to take the fact that Boris Johnson broke the fucking law.
Okay, Antur just threw something in the side chat about a woman with a rifle at Trump Tower in Chicago.
What is this, breaking?
Yeah,
Jesus.
Well, I just pulled up a quick story on it, and it says that they sent in a SWAT team, and basically they think it was just a domestic incident, that they're not counting the woman as being a terrorist. But it's very brief. The story is still unfolding now, so they don't have a lot. But basically it says something about the woman was saying she was tired of being abused by her husband.
Yeah. An armed society is a polite society, right?
Well, it's polite once they've shot everybody who talks back.
Mm-hmm.
I got in big trouble just basically saying after the Nashville incident, hey, it's the guns. It's fucking guns, people. Jesus.
Well, there's the one meme that I really liked, to all you people saying it's not the guns, the people are the problem. So why do you want your problem to have guns?
Oh, I like that one too.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm not. Yeah, I live in Maine. I'm not opposed to guns, but what do you need an Armalite rifle for? I mean, god damn.
I mean, some of these people, when I see the pictures they take, they've got 50, 60 assault rifles all arranged around them. What do these people need another hobby?
Oh yeah.
The only time I can think of where that kind of rifle would be useful would be the story I heard where somebody's land was being attacked by like a couple dozen coyotes, and they needed to stop them.
Mm-hmm.
That's about the
I-
only time
basically.
where that
I-
would be
What makes
useful.
me crazy about these pictures of guys and their guns laid out all over the floor and shit like that. How the fuck do you afford that? I mean, a simple semi-automatic handgun is $700. Okay?
Yeah, one of those.
An AR weapon can run up to $2,500, $3,000, depending on the brand and stuff. You know,
Yeah.
how do you afford that?
Did you all see the picture of the family of the guy who represents the district where that
Yeah.
Nashville shooting occurred? It's a Christmas card. The whole family's got a piece in their hands, including the little kids. It's just,
Oh yeah,
what the hell?
those ones with the kids is holding the guns really. Yeah.
What's his
It's
name?
not responsible gun ownership, in my
What?
humble opinion. It's just, really?
Who's the name of the politician who sends the greeting card out of his family with his guns? He's from fucking Tennessee or whatever.
It's the same district where they're shooting.
Yeah. Well, he's not the only one. Lorraine Boebert sent out a picture like that for Christmas too.
Yeah.
And was there a shooting? Was that her district that the Colorado shooting was in?
I'm not sure.
I don't think so. Gun fetish.
But yeah, they also don't seem to get the concept that it doesn't matter if you have 50 guns. If you're one person and there are 50 people with one gun each coming at you, you're still fucking screwed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's going to happen if the government decides to take your guns.
What?
The buyback program in Australia was pretty damn successful.
Yeah. Well, and they've done buyback programs in a lot of American cities that were very successful too.
No, I wouldn't call any of them a success. They didn't even get rid of like 1% of the guns. Not even close. There are
Australia was mandatory. You had to turn them in.
There are over 350 million guns in this country.
Yeah, well, that's the problem, that we've got more guns than we do people to start with.
Well, the one thing I will say, and I'll get myself into trouble for, it doesn't really matter how many guns you've got if you've got the people willing to shoot other people up with them.
Yep.
Oh, I completely agree, Diana. It is the guns and it is the people.
Yeah.
And it's not insane people. It's people with no anger management.
Yeah.
According to the RAND Corporation, in 2009, 59% of people registered voters supported mandatory buybacks.
Yeah, it's not like these policies are unpopular. They're very popular. That's just that we can't seem to get those, can't seem to get the same kind of electoral results.
Well, no, because the gun manufacturers are giving millions of dollars to congressional candidates.
This country is not filled with a lot of bright people.
You know who the biggest...
In case you haven't noticed. And if you look at some of the facts that people hear and don't do anything about it costs about $65,000 a year to keep a prisoner. It costs about $30,000 a year to put a homeless person and up in housing and give them food. Why?
Yeah, I know.
Although, one thing about this most recent shooting that gets kind of glossed over, but I think is really rattling a lot of the people on the right, is that this happened at a Christian school. This wasn't a public school anymore. This was a school for people who could afford the tuition for a private school.
Yeah. Yeah, a school that probably had mandatory on the curriculum, a range time for the coming Armageddon.
Well, I don't know if it would go that far, but it was definitely a school that was, pushing religious teaching.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, everybody hold it up to the mirror.
What?
Carol's hashtag, hold it up to the mirror.
Well, där get it.
I don't get it.
It's
If you
written
read it
backward,
backwards,
honey.
it says "fuck Trump."
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I want to know
There
how
you go.
people can write backwards on their stuff. How do they do that?
It's better.
Well, when my ex-wife was a Sunday school teacher at the local Unitarian church, she had a student who could write backward and upside down.
I call that just being dyslexic.
Yeah, I think that Jenny was talking about how people do it like on Twitter and that. I'm sure there must be an app out there for it.
Writing upside down or backwards is not typically hard, although it would be fairly hard to do both at once.
Yeah, that's what this kid did.
The people I'm really amazed that it's some sort of savant that can follow you, whatever you're saying, they can follow you every word and pronounce it backwards instantly, right along with you saying it. It was amazing. It's not one of those useful skills, but it is interesting.
I saw a story about somebody who was able to write with both hands simultaneously.
That would be amazing.
Well, and even beyond that, he was able to be writing in English with one hand and in French with the other hand.
Oh, Jesus.
It would be really intense.
What? Did he get his corpus callosum cut or something?
I was wondering about that, if the two sides of the brain weren't really talking to each other when that's going on.
Yeah.
That's amazing. There was this one, and I haven't heard it or talked about it in a long time, so it's going to be a little bit inaccurate. But there's some people who can listen to a symphony on a CD, for example, and once the CD ends, they can play it on the piano, the whole thing. And even more amazing is you can tell them how many minutes into the CD they should start playing, and they nail it.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I have a hard time counting up from 10 and getting it accurately. Oh, man.
So goodbye to Molly Cam. My phone's at less than 40% here.
Well, I should probably be shutting down here anyway. So why don't we go around and do a wrap up?
I should probably put some clothes on and take some garbage out. Yeah.
Yep. Well, Mage put out a video yesterday that was mostly his cute puppy, so go and watch that.
Yay.
So, Mage, why don't you go ahead? You got anything coming up? I'll be doing my garden tour, which I postponed and if anybody wants to get her any bullies to, please do so. She absolutely loved them. It calmed her down totally. I know the ones I have on her list aren't necessarily the cheapest, but if anyone happens to know any that are cheaper, you can just throw one into the cart, throw the cheaper one in, take the one I have out of the cart, and then that should be able to send to the address. I'm willing to try other brands.
Okay. Oh man.
Are those rawhide shoes? Are you talking about?
No, they're not. They're bullies. They're some of them I think are made with rawhide, but no, they're not always made with raw. Some of them are made with collagen and stuff. But they're okay. They're safe as long as you give them just one in a day.
Yeah, it's rawhide that's actually bad for dogs. They get big chunks of it stuck in their gut and all kinds of things like that.
If she likes chewing on those, though, something you might want to try is see if you can get her a cow hoof.
I could look into that.
You know, they're really hard, so they last a long time. But, you know, if she's really teething a lot, which at her age she could still be.
Yeah, she's chewing up quite a bit.
And remember, when you're really hungry, you can go to the pet store and buy pig ears and eat those.
Don't tempt me.
You can't do that. I'm just telling a bad joke.
I like it though.
Yeah, looks like the one I had was is actually a natural beef stick that's just basically super dried out.
I have seen at some pet stores, and I forget if it's cow or a pig or whatever, but dried penises.
Okay.
Oh my.
People buy them for the dog.
I will check at your pet store about if you can get something, you know, like a hoof.
Or an antler. I understand antlers last a long time.
I haven't seen antlers. I've seen the pig ears.
Yeah, deer antlers. I am a little bit concerned about giving her any bone. I did buy a rib bone for the beef rib bone.
Horns are not bone. Horns are keratin. Just
it is, but they can splinter like bone. And they could also, since they're hard, there's a chance they could crack their teeth on it, which I've been concerned about. But she doesn't seem to be chewing that hard. It's just that she's doing it for a long time.
Well, wait a minute. With the cracking the teeth, I forget. Do puppies get 2 sets of teeth?
Yeah.
Yes.
They do. Okay. So it's not necessarily that your dog is unable to eat.
She's already on her adult teeth. She's 2 years old. Or going to be 2 years old this month. But she still has puppy behavior. And I'm imagining she's probably reverted a little bit due to the stress.
Okay, well, you know, you'll have to see. You'll need to give her some time to settle into her new place. But we're going around here. Jeff, you got anything happening?
Nothing like immediately scheduled. So no, usually there's some dumb stuff that tends to come up with someone or other that I tend to react to. So at the moment there seems to be an awful lot of dumb stuff. Otherwise, you can catch me. Usually, you can catch me on One Rings Media Musings streams as well. So on Sundays.
Okay, so you probably won't be doing anything because we don't expect any politicians to do anything stupid this week, huh?
No politicians or atheist organisations or anything like that. Yeah, I mean, you know, because they never do anything stupid, you know.
Yep. Okay, Stephanie, you've been live streaming more. Do you have one planned?
I don't. I haven't. You know, I'm kind of worn out. I had to last weekend. I just couldn't do anything. It's I got just burnt out on this, that, and the other thing. But I'll probably do something this week on some topic or other. But nothing planned out.
Yeah.
But I do expect politicians to do stupid things on the daily. So.
Well, I highly recommend everybody takes a couple of days a month away from social media. You can't just be looking at it all the time. You just, you know, it's beyond burnout what it does to you.
That too. Oh my.
You watch too much social media and it turns you into a Republican. So
yeah.
Stay careful.
That'll never happen, Jenny. That's not.
Kind of get the opposite effect.
Okay, Jenny, you have anything happening?
Other than a crush on my new doctor, no, nothing.
Awkward.
Oh my.
Okay. Diana, what about you? You gonna be doing a stream later?
Say again, honey.
You gonna be doing a stream later tonight?
I don't know. Maybe I can try. I'm short on time on this StreamYard here. It's telling me up at the top that I'm almost out of free time. And I really don't feel like paying StreamYard prices for the time I get. So I guess what I'm going to have to do is try to what do you want to call it? Repair the system that I had.
Diana,
Yes, dear.
do you have a second email address? Create another StreamYard account using the other email address. That's before I had the paid StreamYard. That's what I was doing.
Okay.
That I would do my streams for like 3 weeks until I ran out of time on them. And then like the last couple streams of the month, I was doing through the one that was connected to my backup email.
Oh, by the way, your Sunday stream that you never started is still pending.
Is it? Oh, thank you. I'm going to have to
It's
do
still
something
hanging
with
there.
that.
Yep.
Well, wait a minute. Maybe I can just leave it up there and start it this coming Sunday.
Or you could just start it now and just leave it running until Sunday and, see if you can beat Stool's famous potato stream.
Oh, I can't. It'll die by then. I think I only have 2 or 3 hours left to go on the account.
Okay, well, with that, I will bid you all a good day. I'm going to shut it down here, and we will see you all tomorrow night.
Bye, everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks, Purple.
All right.
I just need to thank my Patreon subscribers, the people who are paying for me having StreamYard. Skits Crasher, of course. Lavender Lady we have here. Greg Hartwick.
What was that?
Robert X. Kitty. Southern Style. And Vonrek. So I appreciate you people helping me keep things going here.
And
And by
remember,
the way, I'd like to throw in a thank you to everybody. I was on the air, I think last week or the week before, with worries about food and money and everything. And the way you folks came forward, it just brought tears to my eyes. It really did. Thank you. I've got a few dollars for some food, even though I have to wait to get my EBT card. So thank you, all of you. And if you don't mind my asking, just keep it up, would you? I think I'm going to need it.
Okay, Jenny, you had something to say before I hit the button?
yes, just remember, don't get caught.
There
Okay.
you go. There you go.
Bye-bye, all.
Hey.
All right.